popular theory is that they came from the Maya Indians of Mexico, who had an ancient word for these storms called hurricane or hurricane. In Mayan mythology, hurricane, meaning one-legged, was a wind, storm, and fierce god, and one of the creative deities who participated in all three attempts of creating humanity. Hurricane was the Mayan god big wind, and its image actually is located throughout. If you have a chance to travel to Central America, you see that it's throughout their pyramids. And we worship this god and respect him highly. He also created the Great Flood after the first humans entered the world. He supposedly lived in the windy mist above the flood waters and repeated earth until land came up from the seas. In appearance, he has one leg, the other being transformed into a serpent or a long nose, and a smoking object such as a cigar and torch holder or axe head, which pierces him around his forehead. According to Mayan mythology, the Mayan rain and wind god Shah sent rain for crops, but he also sent hurricanes. And the Mayan Indians did believe that if they made offerings to Shah, including human sacrifices, they believed rains would continue on for the hurricanes would cease. There are several ways, the naming of hurricanes, there were several ways hurricanes were named in the North Atlantic prior to 1950. 1950s when they actually started naming hurricanes. Actually naming them after the military alphabet from 1950 to 1952. And then 1953 they started naming after women. And from 1953 to 1979 they were named exclusively after women. What? Actually that's the problem. The women complained and said, hey, we need some men as well. And they got thousands of complaints to the World Meat Organization, year upon year upon year, and the World Meat Organization in 1978 finally gave in to the women, as usual. And so that's how they became. That's why every now from 1979 to present, the names are there's a female name, then a male name, then a female name, so it's equal. But from experience, the females seem to do most damage. Okay. Hurricanes are the only weather disasters that have been given their own iconic names, such as Hurricane Andrew, Floyd, Gilbert, Katrina, Camille, or Mitch. No two hurricanes are the same, but like people, they share similar characteristics, yet still have their own unique stories to tell. The naming of hurricanes has undergone various stages of development and transformation. For the major hurricanes of the region, they were often named after the particular country, island, or city they devastated. This is especially true for severe hurricanes. Two notable, I can give you examples in the Caribbean, but I'm going to use two notable beginning examples. One is that my next book, on the 1st of June, I'll be talking about the 1932 and 1899 hurricanes. The Great Abaco hurricane is known throughout the region, especially by meteorologists and scientists alike, as the Great Abaco hurricane of 1932. It is and remains one of only two Category 5 hurricanes on record to ever hit the Bahamas. The next one was Andrew of 1992. Andrew actually was classified 10 years later as Category 5, but it's the only one that made. And also the next one is the Great Nassau hurricane of 1926, and that's my previous book that I wrote about. And the Great Miami hurricane of 1926, which although those storms struck the Bahamas in the 1926 North Atlantic hurricane season. And in some cases they were named after the holidays they devastated. They occurred on. The Great Labor Day hurricane of 1935, that's one of the more deadly hurricanes and the more notable hurricanes in the North Atlantic. This hurricane caused extensive damage in the Bahamas and the Upper Florida Keys. To this day, this hurricane is the strongest hurricane ever to strike the United States in terms of barometric pressure. And it's one of the strongest hurricanes worldwide. I think it's number 21 in terms of worldwide, in terms of intensity. And intensity is measured solely by barometric pressure. In some cases, they were named after the ships which experienced the storm. Two notable storms were the Racist Storm of 1837 and the Sea Venture Hurricane of 1609. You might not know the names, but they had a significant impact on the Caribbean and the North Atlantic. The Racist Storm was a very powerful and destructive hurricane in the 19th century, causing 105 deaths and heavy rainfall and damage to many cities in its 2,000-mile path. The Racer was named after the British warship HMS Racer, which encountered the hurricane in the extreme northwest Caribbean on September 28th of 1837. And this ship succumbed to that storm. The next hurricane is the Sea Venture hurricane of 1609. It might not ring a bell to you, but you would know it because, not because you were not born, there was at the time, they were traveling, the Sea Venture was traveling from London to Virginia to fortify the Jamestown settlement. Sea Venture encountered a hurricane and was grounded at Bermuda. And for some time, the island was called Sumner's Island after the ship's captain, Sir George Sumner's. And the passengers of the shipwreck, Sea Venture became the newest first inhabitants, and their stories helped inspire Shakespeare writing his final play, The Tempest, making it perhaps one of the most famous hurricanes in early American history. And actually, most of the sailors on the ship, they were shipwrecked the hurricane. They encountered the hurricane near Bermuda, and they were shipwrecked at Bermuda. And those passengers stayed in Bermuda, and they became the first inhabitants of Bermuda. So every year they celebrate this storm in Bermuda. They have a holiday to work through. In some cases, they were named after important persons in the region, such as the Willoughby Gale of 1666. The word gale during colonial times was often interchanged with the word hurricane. They meant the same thing, a hurricane. And they were not the official term that we now know as a meteorological gale, which is 34 knots to 47 knots. And in fact, when I did interviews with most of the persons throughout the Bahamas on historic hurricanes, most of them don't know the word hurricane. Most of them call it, for example, the 1929 hurricane. We call it the 29 gale, or the 26 gale, or the 1866 gale. They mostly refer to them as gale rather than hurricanes. So most of the old persons, if you talk to them, you'll find that if you mention gale, for them that would be a more familiar term than hurricane. And the other hurricanes, Daniel, the 4 hurricane of 1703, which hit London and it devastated London. It came through the Atlantic and went to London and devastated London. And Daniel before, and then this Benjamin Franklin hurricane, which he called the hurricane while coming back to the United States in 1703 while he was the ambassador for France. And it devastated the ship, and actually he's the one who discovered the Gulf Stream because of that hurricane. And Alexander Hamilton, who was one of the treasurers in the United States, he encountered the hurricane in 1772. And he encountered the hurricane on St. Croix and St. Kitts. And he wrote a compelling account of this storm and he broadcast it in the local media at the time. And it was such a compelling account that everyone in St. Kitts and St. Croix collected money to send him to the United States for schooling. He ended up staying there and became important in the American history. And the modern name of systems for hurricanes. Several claimants have put forward as the originators of the modern tropical cyclone naming system. However, this was forecaster Clement Bradley, an Australian meteorologist in 1887, who began giving vivid names from history, meteorology, and male names, special names of politicians who offended him before the end of the 19th century. He was the colorful and controversial meteorologist in charge of Brisbane, Australian weather office. He initially named storms after meteorological figures, but decided to name them after politicians who he hated. And nowadays, until the Saffir-Simpson scale was developed in 1973, you're going to understand why I call these storms the Great Hurricanes. It's not Great Hurricanes, it's back then they call them Great or Extreme, because most persons name them Great Hurricanes. Severe hurricanes, minor or minimum or major hurricanes. A minor hurricane had maximum sustained winds of 74 miles per hour and minimum central pressure of 29.40 inches. A minimum hurricane had maximum sustained winds of 75 to 100 miles per hour and minimum central pressure of 29.03 to 29.39 inches. And a major hurricane had winds of 101 to 135 miles per hour and minimum central pressure of 29.01 to 29.02. 28.01 to 29.02 inches. An extreme or great storm had winds of 136 miles per hour and a central pressure of 28.00 inches. So anytime you use the word great, that means that storm that was at least a category 4 storm. in today's hurricanes are no longer used, but they are prepared historical manuals and historical references now and again. Also, they occurred on the same day on which they, especially in the Spanish-speaking Caribbean. For while these hurricanes in the West Indies were also named after the particular saint's day on which the hurricane occurred. As Christianity took hold in the West Indies, the naming of storms here in the Caribbean was based on the Catholic tradition of naming storms with the saint of the day. Powerful hurricanes hit the Spanish islands of the Caribbean, but Catholic names. And the first hurricane to be named with the saint day was a hurricane called Hurricane San Bartholomew, which devastated Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic on the 24th and 25th of August of 1568. One example of a hurricane which impacted the Bahamas actually was the Hurricane St. Philip II, or Segundo, and it's often referred to, known as the Great Lake Okeechobee Hurricane. This hurricane was a deadly storm. Actually, it wasn't really that impactful in the Bahamas. It was a category, but 18 persons. Back then, 18 persons was nothing. And it occurred in 1928, but it went on to devastate Florida, and especially the Lake Okeechobee region. And it killed 1,836 persons. That's important. It doesn't mean anything, but of that total, 75% of that total were blacks. 75% of that total were considered actually Bahamians. Most of those persons were Bahamian migrant workers who went over